This is the new Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Bronzing and Shaping Serum. Wanted to make sure I got that correct. This is the newest bronzer product from Makeup by Mario. Because this is marketed as a multi-use product, I'm gonna test that out today. We're gonna use it as a makeup primer all over the face. We're gonna mix it in with foundation, and then also we're going to use it as just a basic contour liquid bronzer on top of foundation. So if that sounds good, if that sounds useful to you, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and let's go ahead and test out this new little bronzing product. Just a couple housekeeping details. This does retail for $36 USD. You do get one whole fluid ounce of product, which is actually quite a bit for a liquid bronzer. Most liquid bronzers that are marketed as liquid bronzers have about half that amount of product. The other cool thing to note about this product is that it does come with a pump, as you can see, so you're able to pump it out. And then it also has a doe foot applicator, which is super cool. I really do like the packaging. I think it's super cool and innovative, and I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes it easier to use this in multiple ways, because the packaging sort of encourages you to try to use it in different ways, if that makes sense. Obviously, you can mix in any liquid bronzer or contour with your foundation, or you can apply it all over your face. But I do think that the fact that this has a pump just makes it a little bit more easy and approachable for some reason. I have tried this product out before. It's on my YouTube shorts, so if you want to see a first impressions, definitely check that out. I've worn this product a couple of times since I've gotten it. I'm wearing it today. And spoiler alert, I do really love it. A couple of things just to note right off the bat. This is a super natural sheer product that has a glowy pearlescent finish that dries down completely. If you don't like any of those things, if you don't like glow or luminescence to your bronzer or contour, if you want a lot of pigment, this is not gonna be for you. This is super duper natural. So just something to keep in mind. It's similar to something like the iconic London Sheer Bronze, if you've ever tried this. Super sheer. I'll insert some swatches just so you can see the texture and how much pigment is really in a pump, how much it shears out, all that stuff. I'll let you see up close the finish and how luminous it is. It doesn't have any glitter or sparkles in it, but it definitely does have a luminous finish. So right now I do have some makeup on. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe my base makeup off, leave my eyebrows and my eyes and my lips, obviously, because we're not gonna be doing much there, but I do want to wipe this off, and we're gonna try to apply this in different ways. Like I said before, I have used this product, but I've only used it as a bronzer slash contour in my personal daily use. So as a primer and as a foundation mix-in is gonna be my first time as well with you on camera. So it'll be fun. I'll wipe this off and then we'll get started. Okay friends, I removed my makeup and zoomed you in. So let's go ahead and try this as a bronzing drop, sort of glowy bronzing primer sort of thing. Sometimes I use my L'Oreal Glotion in that way, to where it adds a little bit of a tint and luminescence to my skin. I'll go ahead and swatch them next to the Makeup by Mario just in case you're curious. Here is the L'Oreal Lumi Glotion in Medium Glow, Deep Glow, and then here is the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Bronzing Serum in the shade Light. Makeup by Mario is not as metallic as the L'Oreal Lumi Glotion, pearlescent, but not quite as highlightery. So there you can see a little bit of the finish and also just the differences in tone. As I said earlier, the Makeup by Mario is pretty sheer. So I have the shade Light, but honestly, I feel like the shades are a bit flexible. I could probably go up to light medium, even medium probably, and get away with it. I swatched Fair in store and it looked super duper natural on my skin tone, almost like it wouldn't even show up. So I would suggest going up a shade from what you think that you might need. Go a little bit higher just to err on the safe side, because if you get something that's what you normally would get, like I would normally get maybe the lightest shade in bronzer, I felt like that would have been too non-existent on my skin. So just something to keep in mind. I would typically just rub it in with my fingertips, so that's what I'm going to do today. I didn't even take a full pump. We're just gonna take about that much and rub it all over the skin. I'm gonna take a little bit more from my forehead. We got a lot of real estate up there. Obviously, it's not going to give any coverage. It's just a very sheer tint. I don't feel like it's looking streaky or patchy. That was my biggest fear when it came to like using this as a bronzing primer. Like I was worried that it could look muddy. Sometimes bronzing drops, bronzing primers, because they're usually darker obviously than your skin tone, and they're not super pigmented, they're more sheer, they can tend to look a little splotchy or streaky or patchy on the skin, but I honestly feel like this one looks very, very smooth. I don't see any streakiness or patchiness at all, really. I mean, you guys will have to let me know what you're seeing, but in person, I feel like it looks just like my skin is overall a little bit more bronzed. This would be perfect, I think, for like a beach or a pool day where you don't want to look like you have makeup on or you don't want to wear foundation, but again, you just want to add a little bit of color. This could be really cool. Let's see if we apply foundation on top, if this is gonna peek through, if it's gonna show through. I don't know. I'm gonna apply foundation that's a little bit too light for me right now, just to see maybe if this balances it out a little bit. This is the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation in the shade Mont Blanc. Let's try a lighter foundation on this side, and then we'll do one that's closer to my skin tone on the other. Like you can tell here, it looks way too light, but then when I apply it on my skin and blend it in, I think it looks way more like close to my actual skin tone. Interesting. I'm just taking my IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe foundation brush. I mean, like, obviously it's still a little bit too light, or maybe not exactly the right shade, but I do feel like overall that really helped to make this foundation that's way too light for my skin a little bit closer to my skin tone. Like, obviously it's still lighter than just the bronzing drops by itself, but it's definitely a little bit deeper than it is in the bottle, if that makes sense. So I do feel like the serum pokes through in the foundation. Like, it's not just gonna disappear fully. Like, it does sort of shine through, which is what you want from a bronzing drop. Like, what's the point of applying it if it's just not going to make any sort of difference in how your foundation looks? You know what I mean? The Nars Light Reflecting Foundation does have, I would say, a medium coverage, so I don't know how much you're going to really see this if you use like a full coverage foundation. Obviously, any sort of primer is going to have trouble peeking through a full coverage foundation, but I think a skin tint, light coverage, medium coverage like this, I do think that this will work as a bronzing primer. So I really like how that looks. I don't feel like the finish of the foundation is overly glowy. The light reflecting foundation that I'm wearing is already a little bit luminous. Maybe it's slightly more luminous, you can see there, but not anything dramatic. Just slightly more bronzed than the original shade and maybe slightly more luminous. Cool. Let's try to use a slightly deeper shade on this side and see if it makes a difference. Obviously, it's probably gonna look a little bit deeper, but we're just having fun. So this is the shade Deauville. Deauville is already probably, I would consider, my summer shade, whereas Mont Blanc is something that I usually wear more in the winter time. So obviously it's going to be deeper on this side than on this side because we used a darker shade. But even still, I do feel like it looks even darker than it normally does. I'll swatch it by itself. So there is Deauville by itself, and there it is on my face. I'll give it a second to sort of dry down a bit. But yeah, I do feel like it looks just a hint bronzier than it normally does on my skin, which is nice because if I get super tan, then it makes my foundation even more flexible in terms of shade. And as I stated before, the Makeup by Mario does dry down completely. So using it as a primer, it's not going to make your foundation slip and slide around. It's not overly greasy or dewy. So I feel like even if you have normal combo, maybe even oily skin, you might be able to get away with this as a primer. I think it does have hyaluronic acid in it, so it might be too hydrating for you with oily skin who live in a humid climate. But because of that dry down, I do think it's going to be very flexible for a wide variety of skin types. And it also has that very thin, like consistency because it is a serum. So it doesn't make your foundation or your base feel extra heavy or thick. It just literally feels like water when you apply it and it dries down. So when you're applying your foundation, it doesn't really feel that much different, to be honest. So yeah, I've let this settle for a minute, and I do feel like this is the side with the shade Deauville in the Nars Light Reflecting. Here it is on my hand. I do feel like this is just the slightest bit deeper, and I literally just squirted that all over my shirt. Love that for me. Okay. Here is Mont Blanc on this side with the Makeup by Mario SoftSculpt Shaping Serum in the shade Light underneath. And I do feel like, again, it looks just a hint deeper and a hint more luminous. So as a primer, I give it a thumbs up. I mean, obviously I'm going to have to wear this throughout the day and see if it like breaks apart my foundation quicker than I am used to, but upon first impression, I like how the foundation applied over top of it. I like the effect, and I'm confident because of that dry down, it will have pretty good staying power and not break up my foundation. But again, subscribe to hear my more developed thoughts in a future video. So I'm gonna wipe this off, and then we will mix the serum into our foundation to see what sort of effect that gives. All right, we're back. I wiped off the makeup, and I just went in with a little bit of my Olay moisturizer just to help hydrate the skin a little bit. So let's go ahead and take the same foundation, the Nars Light Reflecting in the shade Mont Blanc. I just took 2 squirts. I'm gonna take 1 squirt of the Makeup by Mario. That might be way too much, but it's fine. And mix it together. And I do feel like already I see a huge change in the difference in color. And I think this will work really well for my skin. And the nice thing is, for me personally, the Makeup by Mario serum does have, I would say, a very true neutral leaning cool undertone. So if you have a foundation that is slightly too warm for you, I would say that this will help to neutralize it a bit and obviously add a little bit of depth. It's not going to make your skin look orange. It really just deepens it and adds a little bit of a neutral undertone. I mean, depending on what shade you get, but if you get the shade light, like me, I do find that to be the case. And in terms of application, I mean, the foundation is applying beautifully, just as it always does. I don't notice anything different when it comes to the application of this foundation. I'm very familiar with this foundation. It's one of my favorite foundations of all time. It's not streaky, it's not patchy. Overall, I think it looks really great as a mix-in, and I'm really excited to use this in the summertime because, like I said, I usually use the shade Deauville in the summer, but sometimes it's a little bit too yellowy on my skin. And the Mont Blanc is more neutral. So the fact that I can mix in a little bit of this bronzing serum to deepen it and get that nice neutral undertone, that's really, really cool. That's awesome. It just adds so much more versatility. Instead of having to purchase a whole new foundation, it's really nice to have these bronzing serum because you can mix it in with any of your foundations, and you can also use it as a bronzer itself. So far I'm liking it as a primer and I'm liking it as a mix-in. I think it looks really, really pretty. And again, it doesn't feel heavy, doesn't feel sticky. The foundation is probably a little bit more luminous than it is originally, but not overly so. So I'm gonna wipe this off for a final time and apply the rest of my makeup, and then we'll go in and use it as a traditional bronzer slash contour. All right, friends, we're back. I just applied my Nars Light Reflecting Foundation again, some concealer, a little bit of blush, and now we're going to go in with the SoftSculpt Shaping Serum as our bronzer. So I'll do one side with the doe foot and one side with the pump, just so you can see both methods of application. I will say from experience with the doe foot, you do get less product, obviously, so you're going to get a more natural sheer effect. I'm just gonna take a little angled brush. I would suggest using a brush with this product just because it's so serum-like and fluid. A sponge is just going to suck all of the product up, and because it is so sheer and natural, you really want to get your money's worth, you know? You don't want it sucked up in a sponge and not on your face. So as you can see, that blended in effortlessly, literally 2 seconds, and it looks super duper natural. So I did use my shade Deauville in the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation, which is the slightly deeper of my 2 shades, just so we can see if the light shade of the serum would show up. And as you can see, it is super subtle, so if I were to go in with a fair shade, I don't think it would show up on my skin personally. So just something to keep in mind, but I do feel like this really gives a very beautiful, subtle, natural effect. Okay, so on the other side, I'm going to pump some product out. I don't feel like I need a full pump for half of my face, but I'm just going to work that into my brush. And you can see it is just so diffused and seamless this way. I actually prefer this method, even though it's a little bit more tedious to have to pump it on your hand. You got a mess on your hand, now you got to go in with your brush, but the effect is so just smooth and diffused. I mean, this is too, but there's something about pumping it onto the back of your hand first and then working your brush in that really makes it look super flawless. But honestly, I feel like either method of application works. With the doe foot, with the pump, I love it. And you can build this up. Honestly, I've gotten this to be quite intense on my bare skin. I love this product for like a no makeup day because it has, as you can see, just that like almost translucency to it, to where you can still see my skin peeking through. So when you're just rocking your natural skin and you don't have any foundation on, this doesn't look like makeup on your skin. It literally looks like a bronze because it's not a stripe of thick opaque brown. It has a little bit of that see-through quality that looks so natural, and I feel lends itself really well to a no makeup sort of a look. So there it is, built up a little bit. You can see I have a little bit more depth and dimension on this side than on this side. We'll go ahead and build it up over here as well. You can see it does layer. I feel like that's pretty good. That's pretty noticeable on my skin. Like, that's a good level of bronze for me. And honestly, I feel like I have a little bit more on this side, so I'm going to try to even it out a bit. I do feel like in general, if you're going to go in with a full pump, you're obviously going to get more product than with just the little doe foot. So in my experience, when I just pump it out, I do get more pigment in just a quicker blend. More pigment right away in a quicker blend, if that makes sense. So it's really going to come down to preference, I feel, on how you prefer to apply it, but it really does apply perfectly either way. Alright guys, so that is the video. We've officially tested a bunch of different ways to use the new SoftSculpt Bronzing and Shaping Serum by Makeup by Mario. And I have to say, so far, I love every single way of application. I personally love this product. I think it isn't going to be for everyone. I think, like I said before, it's very sheer, it's very natural. If you don't like a bronzer like that, if you want more punch, if you want more pigment, you're probably not gonna like this. Just in general, I would suggest going up a shade or even two, just to get a little bit more pigment or to get it to even show up. If you go with what you think you are, like, in my opinion, it's not going to be enough. So I would err on the side of caution. I would go in store, maybe swatch it. Just know that it is going to be very, very natural, very subtle. But for a no makeup day, if you like very subtle, easy, no fuss products, I think you would really like this. If you want something where you can tint your whole face to match your body for the summer, to add a little bit of luminescence, it's not going to feel greasy, I think you would really like this. If you want something that's going to subtly deepen up your foundations if they're a bit too light for you, I think you would really like this. So yeah, overall, I'm super impressed. Again, I don't think it's going to be for everyone, but if you know what you're getting into, I do think it's worth the splurge, and I do think you get a really great value. You get a whole fluid ounce, which is a lot of product, for $36 for Makeup by Mario. So I'm really happy with this purchase. I hope this video was helpful. Again, I'll insert some swatches of Makeup by Mario compared to some of my other bronzers in my collection, so you can see how it looks tone-wise and all that stuff. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm gonna go change my shirt because I still have foundation all over it, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.